I'm Michael Rueta, and I'm a third-year undergraduate architecture student with a minor in sustainability.
Hi, my name is Cristian and I'm also a third-year undergrad architecture student with a minor in business administration. And we are going to look at our site, which currently takes place in Glendale, SC, and is our second project of our conservation studio with Professor Sally Hambright.
So the concept behind Interwoven incorporates the idea of weaving the natural, built, and historical fabric of our site with the communal revitalization of Glendale. And so ultimately blur the lines between what is and what could be. And so focusing on sustainability as well as the contextual and history of the site, we are attempting to enhance the existing resources on the site and create spaces that can be enjoyed by everyone.
And to further understand the community and the people who inhabit our site, who will eventually inhabit our site and community members, we created a demographic, community, and analytical data chart, which details the household median incomes in Glendale, which sit at a 36,193 2017 value, which was a decrease from the previous year, as well as the population that currently exists in Glendale, which is 175 people, which compared to 307 people in a 2010 census is a negative 42.9% decrease, as well as homeownership rates in Glendale, which sits at 85% as compared to a national average of 63.9%, which will ultimately influence our design and also our programmatic elements that we are going to propose. Transitioning to the unique and dynamic elements that we are proposing for Glendale, which one of them include a recreational activity space, which is influenced by the national, state, and Spartanburg physical activity level as compared between those three, and will also be aided by the existing trails and also the many events and physical recreational activities that can exist in Glendale or that currently exist.
So to further our understanding of Glendale, we did deeper research into the different statistics and demographics of the site, and something that stood out to us is how although the population is relatively low compared to other surrounding communities, the majority of the employees within Glendale also live in Glendale, and so this shows how the local community is really strong. And so here you can start to see the development of our design through our master plan and some of the strategies that we implemented. And so some of the different programmatic portions are the permeable parking lot, the green roofs, the sustainable garden, pavilions, rain gardens, detention pond, as well as constructed wetlands and the kayak ramp. And as I mentioned, and as Cristian mentioned, the program is quite complex. We broke it down into a hierarchy of different programs. And so if we take a look at the programmatic diagram, you can see we broke it down into four main programs. The first being transit and the idea of incorporating an extension or an extended bus route from Spartanburg into Glendale, and the idea of our lodging and this idea of like a weekend getaway instead of providing rentable residential spaces. It's more of just this temporary weekend getaway, and then the idea of providing an outdoor adventure store that will stimulate the economic inflow of Glendale, and as well as incorporating trails, the existing trails and spaces on our design to further connect our design to the site. So proposed are two new methods of transportation, one becoming an extension of the current Amtrak, revitalizing the ideas of the historic railway. The second one being the mode of the additional bus loop and a stop located at the Glendale site. proposed lodging uses the past and present typologies of the mill village to execute our residential layout. The single shotgun style layout is mimicked through the elongated hallways as well as the aligned programs, and the mill house typology is also evident within the design through our shared dividing walls, as you'll see as we look into our design.
And the proximity to resources and amenities are extremely vital to the community of Glendale. So by reducing this distance to these resources, we can accommodate current community members and create a new inflow of new visitors, as well as a stimulus of interaction between existing community members.
And then we looked into the different native community species on the site, and we use this to incorporate different species into our rain gardens and constructed wetlands.
And this rendering as a whole, as Michael referenced earlier, serves as a representation of how we can stimulate these recreational areas, such as this perspective that shows what could be and how we can enhance the life and nature of the community members.
And so now you can see how the form and design actually is implemented into the design, and we'll take a look at kind of the process we took and how the layout is actually working. And so first we are taking a look at the overall design and the two different forms that really start to take shape within our design. And so the programmatic buildings start to take the rectilinear form and protrude out of this second organic form that acts as a shell, but also mimics the idea of a hill.
As well as the Bivings house providing a strong influential factor within the orientation of the buildings and their shape, and not their shape, but as well as the orientation and their positioning, how they pivot around the site.
And so here you can start to see the layout of the program and start to see how these rectilinear forms really start to act as that programmatic space. And then the idea of this having a mill or a mill village feel, or just a village feel in general, with these programmatic spaces kind of spread out with the idea of having these green spaces in between to really tie in all of them together. And so, although it wasn't referenced in the topic, the idea of the stair stepping of our programs along this hill to really account for the sustainability aspects of the thermal insulation, natural insulation, and regulation of our building temperatures, as well as the different sustainable strategies that are sketched out here. So the runoff strategy really incorporates the idea of making use of where the natural runoff occurs and placing rain gardens and constructed wetlands, as well as detention ponds as needed. The idea of the shell really starting to mitigate the light and control it with pockets that will allow for the light during the optimal time of the day that you need shading, or if you would like to have different pockets of sunlight. The idea of passive heating and cooling, again, with these pockets that are really oriented in a way that allow for the wind to flow through and cool the space as needed. And then the incorporation of trails and circulation, the existing trails and circulation of the site onto our building, and actually kind of blurring the lines between what is currently existing as natural and then what will be built. And then, again, the idea of this shell is further incorporated, as well as the idea of the stair stepping of the program down into the hillside. You can start to see how we recreate the hill in a way with that shell. As well, you can see the precedent of the existing bridge on the site and how we use that to dictate our structure of our forms. And then you can start to see how the shell also acts as a noise buffer for the surrounding programs on the site.
And as we transition to these renderings, as stated before, with the Bivings House being such an influential factor within the orientation of these buildings, this serves as a purpose to place you in the moment and to allow you to see how this view shed is ultimately created by these buildings and by their orientation. And also the complexity but unique the complexity but unique aspects of our programmatic elements allow for the opportunity of these social interactions between community members and new visitors, as well as the opportunity for outward projections of views and times of gathering. And these site and also building sustainable strategies that we have incorporated to our site development and building design are shown here, such as the incorporation of detention ponds as well as native plant species to aid in that mitigation of stormwater inflow and outflow. And as it pertains to our building, a live green wall upon our organic structural shell will create sustainable factors as well. And to preserve the historical significance of the site, these ruins are actually protruding through the middle of our residential areas, which is where our section is being taken out of, and also have sustainable elements and strategies such as locally sourced louvers, wooden louvers to aid in sunlight mitigation and control.
So thank you for listening to our presentation. We hope that our proposal accounts for the needs of the residents in Glendale and also provides opportunities for others to come and enjoy what Glendale Shoals has to offer.